Chapter 12. A jeep borrowed from someone at the stables had been sent to the house, requested by a clearly baffled but polite Anna Alexander, and DeMarco didn't speak until he and Hollis were in it and were heading by compass toward the north side of the property. "Feeling better?" he asked then. Hollis looked down at their linked fingers, then ahead at what was basically a wall of forest looming as they neared. "The farther we get from the house, the less weak and shaky I feel. It's easier to concentrate now, to focus. And it looks deserted out here." "It is deserted. I mean, no spirits." "Yeah, I was reasonably sure you meant that. No living people either. A few horses to our west, but since this is a pasture, I'd expect that." Hollis honestly wasn't sure if he was trying to be funny, but given what she knew of him, she decided not. "Remember what Bishop said?" DeMarco reminded her. "Concentrate ahead of us at the edge of the woods. The jeep's compass says we're heading due north." "I'm staring, but so far I don't see anything," she said. "Hey, did you get the feeling Bishop was expecting something like this?" "No," DeMarco said. "I got the feeling he was expecting exactly this." Hollis had to force herself not to glance at him so she wouldn't break focus, but something in his voice told her Bishop was going to have some explaining to do when this was all over. Always assuming, of course, that even DeMarco was able to persuade Bishop to explain himself, which really wasn't at all likely. "So you think this is one of his master plans?" "Don't you? I'd bet anything you like on the probability that he had another team on the other side of the vortex, probably as much in the dark as we were." Hollis winced. "Where the negative energy is? I'm guessing that it's not a pleasant or safe place to be. Man, I wonder who drew the short straw for that assignment." "Somebody who didn't know what they were walking into." She hesitated, still staring ahead of them at the forest, but was driven to say, "Listen, I get as pissed at Bishop as any of us when he does this sort of thing, but there's always a method to his silence. He puts the right people in the right places at the right times. He'd never leave any of us in danger without multiple backup plans, and you know it. One of these days, he's going to go too far, that's all I'm saying." "Let's talk about it later," she suggested, "because... There, I see something. Keep going straight." "How far?" he asked, slowing the vehicle. "Bishop said the electronics in the jeep could be affected, so stop at least 20 yards out from the trees. What I'm seeing is to the right of that really big oak tree." DeMarco continued on for another minute or so, then stopped the jeep. He used his left hand to put the vehicle in park and turn off the engine since his right hand was securely holding Hollis's left. "Close enough?" "Yeah, I think so." "Well, what do you see?" All DeMarco could see were trees. "There's a funny kind of shimmer in the air beside that tree, almost like an aura, but with nothing visible at the center." She kept her gaze on what Bishop had told them would be a doorway. Damn, he was even right about the color. It's silvery but shot through with dark streaks. DeMarco looked at the stopwatch hanging from the rearview mirror, something also borrowed from the stables. "Almost time. It will probably be easier for you to climb over the console than for me to." "I'm afraid to look away even for a second," she confessed. "If I lose the doorway, I have a horrible feeling this whole thing falls apart. And if there's a team on the other side of the vortex, I'm guessing they need me to do my job in the worst way." "Don't think about that. Don't think about saving other asses Bishop put on the line. Whatever happens, this is on him." "And I thought I was pissed," she murmured. "Like I said, he's gone too far. Okay, since this is a nice working jeep without a top just to stand up, you should be able to almost step over the console." Hollis wasn't at all sure about that, but she followed his instructions and managed not to make a sound of surprise when he somehow got his free arm around her to help her across the console and out of the jeep, without at all breaking her focus. "You're sort of handy to have around," she noted lightly, still intent on that shimmering doorway. "I try," he paused, then added, "If we start walking now, we should be about 3 feet away from that tree, with about a minute to spare." Suddenly, even more nervous, Hollis said, "I know we have to start at a specific time, and I know we have to be at the 5th and final door at a specific time, and there's a lot of driving and distance in between, even assuming I can do this as quickly as Bishop believes I can. Hell, even assuming I can do it at all." All you have to do is follow your instincts. I won't let go of you, no matter what. He began to lead her forward. Just concentrate on opening the door. Hold it open for 1 minute, then, when I tell you it's time, concentrate on closing it. I hope the clock in your head is a good one, because I can't judge time when I'm dealing with normal spiritual energy, much less something like this shit. The clock in my head is accurate to the second, he said calmly. I'll let you know when to close the door. Okay. Hollis stopped suddenly. Close enough, I hope. Jesus, that thing is... I've never seen anything like it. Get ready, DeMarco said. On 1, open the door. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hollis was never sure how she could do what she could do, but in that instant, she just did what she was told. She opened the door. The shimmering halo she stared at seemed to pulse, then grew larger until it was a good 7 or 8 feet top to bottom, and at least 4 feet wide. And its center was no longer empty, but swirled with every color imaginable. Swirled, sparkled, crackled, and then all the colors shot out toward Hollis. She had no time to brace herself, and afterward confessed that there had probably been no way to do that anyway. It was like being hit with a blast of hot air, except that it tingled and tickled and stung and stroked, all in the same timeless moment. It washed over her and through her, and she felt the power of it somehow join with her own strength, increase it, felt her doubts and uncertainties fading, and a new and startling clarity surround her. Get ready to close the door, Hollis. It was almost an intrusion, that voice, and for a heartbeat, she considered ignoring it, but her new clarity of mind told her that was a dangerous thought, a deceptive thought, and she concentrated instead on preparing to close the door she had opened. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. With a confidence and ease that surprised her, Hollis closed the door. The shimmery halo returned, shrank, and as she watched it, shrank to only a glowing point no larger than an orange, then vanished. Hollis? Hollis took a step back, abruptly, keenly aware of her fingers linked with DeMarco's, of a connection that was much stronger now, even as she absorbed all the other new sensations. Strength such as she had never felt in her life, power she knew with absolute certainty she could tap into as she had never done before. And that strange, compelling clarity of mind and even of vision, she could literally see more clearly than she ever had before. Wow, she murmured, and that's just the first door. No time to bask, DeMarco said, leading her toward their borrowed jeep so they could hurry to the pre-selected eastern point of the giant compass they had superimposed over the property surrounding Alexander House. East, the second door. Again, that would take them some distance out from the house and the more manicured gardens. Not pasture this time, but still far enough away that Hollis couldn't see a spirit or possible spirit for at least 100 yards. I wasn't basking, she protested. I was marveling. Did you see that? I mean, was it visible? I saw your aura, he said, matter of fact, sort of silvery. Here, back over the console. Remember, we don't break the link now until after the final door is opened and closed. And from this point on, we have to hurry if we have a hope of closing the vortex. Silvery? Hollis did as he suggested, nimbly scooting across the Jeep's center gear console and into the passenger seat. Interesting. Why? He got the Jeep started and headed for the nearest pasture gate so they could continue moving toward their eastern compass point, their path a wide circle around Alexander House. She hesitated, then said, It's just that your aura looks like that when your primal sense kicks in, the one that warns you when a gun or other weapon is pointed your way. So maybe you're tapping into something primal, he said after a moment. Or all that energy is changing me, again. She thought about it, then shrugged. Well, it feels like a good thing, so far anyway. No nosebleed, no headache, and I don't feel the least bit tired. Energy to spare. I almost wish Bishop hadn't told me I'll need all the strength I gain at the 4 points in order to open and close the final door. I'm glad he warned you. It's out of character for him, but I'm glad he did it. I wonder why, Hollis muttered, suddenly uneasy. He doesn't act out of character often, but when he does, it's usually as good as a giant red flag a giant red warning flag of trouble. A warning of something worse he didn't warn us about. Hollis untangled that in her head. Yes, maybe. Let's just hurry and do this. Hold on, DeMarco told her, meaning it literally as he pushed the Jeep's speed over the uneven pasture terrain. They couldn't break the link even for a second, not until it was over. At first, Luther thought that the woods around the cabin were just unusually quiet. He couldn't even hear birds singing, which was odd, and even odder was the muffling sense that made him want to yawn widely, as if to equalize pressure in his ears. Then he realized abruptly that it wasn't the woods or anything in him. It was Callie. Caesar stopped even before he did, halting the litter no more than 30 yards from the cabin. He didn't seem disturbed, nor did the 3 dogs following the litter closely. They simply looked at Luther and waited. Luther looked at Callie. "What are you—" With only a faint thread of strain in her voice, Callie said, "Bishop said I could do this. And what Bishop says we can do, even if we've never done it before, we find we can do." "Are you shielding me?" he demanded. "Sort of. Patching the crack in your shield and making the whole thing stronger." "Bishop told you to do that in your condition? Damn it, Callie, that's crazy." Jacoby is about to be really distracted, and while he's distracted, we have to slip past him to that truck. "Callie, it's not just for you. He's already sensing us. I'm just trying to make him work for it. We have to distract him on this side for just a little while longer. It's important." Luther swore under his breath and bent to give her a handkerchief. "Your nose is bleeding, Callie." She held the cloth to her nose, but her voice remained clear and calm. "We'll argue about this later. Remember my condition. Weakened. Not sure how long I can keep this up." "Jesus, is your insane boss trying to get you killed?" A ghost of a laugh escaped her. "Never. Were you? We're just trying to fix something that could destroy more than we could imagine." According to Bishop. Well, he's usually right, especially about stuff like this. I think he has you all hypnotized into believing that. Can't hypnotize a psychic, you know that. We need to move, now. You might want to make sure I stay conscious. Not sure I can hold this on automatic. Luther swore again, this time not so quietly, but turned away from Callie and walked beside Caesar as the powerful dog resumed pulling the litter, carrying his mistress, and the silent group of man, woman, and dogs moved deeper into the forest toward the cabin rented by what had once been a man named Cole Jacoby, and was now something so dark and twisted there was only one word to describe it: evil. Alice and DeMarco were out of the Jeep and walking toward the 3rd compass point, south, a point that fell between the stable complex and the extensive rear gardens of Alexander House, when Alice stopped abruptly and half turned to look behind them. "Oh, wow," she murmured. "Creepy. Very creepy." With the minutes counting down in his head, DeMarco turned to look as well, but all he saw was a slightly winding flagstone path that allowed the more athletic of guests to walk from the house to the stables, through the gardens that would be beautiful in spring and summer. Beyond that lay the covered pool and surrounding recreation areas, deserted to his eye, and beyond those the house itself. DeMarco saw nothing unusual or out of place. "What?" Alice cleared her throat. "They're all looking this way, the spirits. In the gardens, around the pool, at the tables, everywhere I can see. They're all just standing there, looking this way, watching us." DeMarco imagined that would look creepy. "Are they moving toward us?" "No, just facing this way, like they're waiting to attack, like a zombie apocalypse. Man, I gotta stop watching horror movies." "Why would you?" DeMarco asked as he got them moving again toward the 3rd compass point. "You basically live in one." "Don't remind me." "Okay, concentrating. This is getting easier. I see the doorway." "Same as the first 2? "Pretty much." "Okay, as soon as we get close enough, stop and do your thing." "How close are we on time?" "We should hurry," DeMarco answered calmly. "We're not even sure exactly where in the basement we'll find the final doorway, so we need to reserve some time for that." Hollis stopped here, about 3 feet away. He saw nothing, but didn't let that bother him. "Go ahead. I'll know when it's open if your aura becomes visible again. But say it's open anyway, in case this doorway is different." Haas focused, concentrated, just as he watched her aura flare brightly around her and felt the now familiar warmth from their clasped hands creep up his arm. She said, "Open." DeMarco automatically kept time in his head, watching her aura pulse with power, the steely sheen intensify in her once blue eyes. It hadn't faded away after that second doorway had been closed. He hadn't told her about that. Consequences. There are always consequences. Maybe Bishop's right, and this will stabilize her brain so there are no more surprise psychic abilities. Maybe some of us will be able to stop holding our breath for fear the next new ability will be too much for her, and maybe this will only make things worse. Calmly, he said, in 5, 4, maybe channeling so much energy will destroy her. 3, 2, where the hell do I stop this? 1. Closed, Hollis said. She turned her head and looked up at him with a faint smile. And on to door number 4. He turned and led her briskly back toward the Jeep. How do you feel now? Like I could run a marathon without breathing hard. Jesus, it's weird. This feeling, I think I could be a superhero. Seriously? You'd hate the tights. I could have a cape. I've always wanted to swirl a cape. Pictures of you on the news, on YouTube, people asking for autographs. You'd hate it. I don't know, it has its appeal. He knew she wasn't serious, but her eyes were even more metallic, and he didn't know what that meant, whether it was a good thing or a bad one. Callie was so focused on projecting her shield outward and maintaining its strength, so determined to safely deflect away whatever negative energy might be directed at any of them, she almost missed something else. But Caesar didn't. They were just over halfway to Jacoby's cabin when he stopped, turned his head toward the slope above them, and whined softly. And as usual, Callie heard his voice clearly in her mind. Girl, near. Since she was facing back the way they'd come, more or less, Callie could see that Jacoby's dogs also reacted, though in their case it was a matter of tucked tails and visible uneasiness. Whatever canine thoughts they had were too unfocused for her to pick up, but Caesar's mind voice remained clear and steady. Pieces, cut her up, grieve. It was almost impossible to keep her focus as coldness rushed through Callie, but she hung on grimly to the only means she had of protecting all of them. What is it? Luther asked, stepping back so he could see her face. It's not like I'm leading him, but I'm assuming Caesar wouldn't have stopped without good reason. Callie had sensed more than seen or heard Luther's determination to walk steadily, even though his leg must have been giving him hell. She had also sensed his wired alertness and the frustration he struggled to hide at not being 100% in a situation this deadly. Callie. She drew a breath, fighting to keep her focus and to weigh her words carefully, because if Luther became too distracted here and now, the consequences could be disastrous for more than just them. Caesar's very good at finding things. Bombs, drugs, bodies. Luther looked at Caesar, then turned his own head to look up the mountain slope above them. Bodies? Are you saying Jacoby has killed someone? We didn't get this far before, Caesar and me. I mean, the last time, since we found the blood. I didn't tell you because there was nothing we could do about it, but I trust him more than a blood test kit. That blood was human, female, and the girl it came from is buried somewhere upslope, cut up in pieces.